Today we're discussing The Husbands by Chandler Baker.
Progress. Hey.
Hello. Hi, Chandler. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. Thank you for joining us. I know there's a few more people joining, so I'm going to give like maybe 3 more minutes to let people sign on.
Yeah, of course.
How are you doing? How's your writing? I've been seeing your posts.
Everything's going okay.
I like your last
Not great. Yeah. It'll get there. It always does.
Nice. Do you have already a publishing date, like when you're supposed to be done by?
Well, I think the book's gonna probably come out next May. My next book. So I was supposed to already be done with it. I don't know, hoping to be done with it sometime in June.
No. Almost there then.
Yes. Yeah. I just keep like deleting, I feel like, everything and redoing it, and it's just not cooperating.
It's the last bit of perfectionism probably hitting.
I think so. I don't know. I told myself, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna delete the first like 50 pages of the book. I'll be able to make it work. It'll be so much better. And then it's just created this really big mess that I didn't anticipate.
Oh, goodness.
I never learned. So where are you guys located?
There's people from different parts, but for the most part, everybody on right now is in Miami, I believe, right?
Okay.
Let me see. I know we have one that's in Tampa that should be joining us tonight. So they're spread out, but the majority are in Miami.
Okay. Tampa's kind of like my neck of the woods. I'm from Sarasota, Florida.
Oh, that's our vacation spot for Miamians.
Really?
Yeah. It's like Sarasota or Naples.
It's like one beach to another though.
Yeah, it's like the long weekend place for most people here.
Okay, interesting. We still go there a lot. I usually go there probably like 5 times a year.
Nice. That's a lot.
Yeah, my parents live there.
Family there? Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's like 3 more that are joining in. We have some that are on mommy duty today that have read, but have events, end of the year events for their kids' school.
Oh,
so
yeah.
We have some that read that will be missing today, unfortunately.
That's okay. I know.
It's a busy time.
It is a busy time.
It's
Last week of school.
Trouble getting in. Let me send this again.
Do you have kids, Michelle?
I do not. I have a niece and a nephew that I think are mine.
Love that.
I say I have a divorced person schedule because they want to be with me like every other weekend. And I'm in a new relationship, well, new-ish relationship, and my niece and my boyfriend like fight about it. She's like, it's my weekend. You can't see her today. It's my turn.
Oh my goodness. How old is your niece?
9.
9. Okay.
My nephew is 6.
No. So fun.
But the people on have children of all ages. We have, I know, some college-bound kids, some in college, high school and little ones.
Right.
Huh?
College bound is right.
College bound.
And mom is insane asylum bound right now.
Okay, we have one person having trouble getting in.
College bound.
Should be in.
It's exciting though. I mean.
Yeah, well, it's overwhelming right now. Really overwhelming. There's so I'm overwhelmed. I just don't know what I'm gonna do.
With all your time.
It's like creeping up on me, and it's coming quick, and I'm overwhelmed with.
Where's your child going to school?
I don't even. He's going to University of South Florida in Tampa.
Okay.
And I'm in Miami, so it's not that far. It's not even that he's leaving. He needs to go.
Yeah, you wouldn't like if he stayed either. So.
But it's a lot of work
Mhm.
getting them ready.
Yes.
Moving them over there and graduation, and it's just one thing after another, one event after another, and it's I'm going crazy. Leanna, prepare yourself.
I don't even want to know. I want to ignore this. I have one more year for that.
I'm paving the way. Oh my God. The worst part
Yeah.
is thinking that I have to do this 2 more times after this because I have 3 kids. So I don't know. Come speak to me on like July 1st when he's gone, and I might be here. I might be just sprawled on the floor. I might have a bottle of wine in my hand. I don't know. That's just
And Chandler, your children are young?
nuts.
Yeah, I have 2, and then I have 2 kids, and one is 2 years old, and then the other is going to be 7 this summer.
Oh, nice. That's a fun age.
That's
Yeah.
the best age.
She's pretty sassy. She's
Yeah.
definitely like going through a big girl attitude situation. So
Well, get ready. It only gets better.
better.
Yeah, they only gain force and they know exactly what buttons to push. And
I can't even
It's
imagine it getting any.
but then they're sweet, they drive us bananas and then they're sweet and you're like, what just happened? I don't
Yes.
know how to deal with this.
Yeah, very much like a roller coaster. And
It's little minutes, like little moments. It's like 23 hours and 50 minutes of drama, and then 10 minutes of, oh, you're so nice. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
gonna miss you so much.
Well, and I mean, ideally it would be like in the books where the husbands were programmed to, step in, swoop up, right when the crisis is hitting, they step right in and take care of business.
Like what I got.
But
The pun.
That's good.
oh my God, how scary. Yeah. Don't click it. Don't click it.
Look it. What are you talking about? Yeah, you've got a new relationship. It's time to like get it
I
going.
know.
Oh, look at you. How funny.
I'm gonna get ahead of myself, but I'm just gonna put it out there. You wrote a book based in Austin, where I lived for a long
Oh.
time, and you were basically describing my overwhelming life at that point when I lived in Texas because my kids were that young.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like reading this and the development and the community, and I don't know if but you were spot on because I live there and I know it. It's like, oh my gosh.
I told my boyfriend about the book and I said yesterday something like, oh, I need to put those towels to wash. And then I hear the washing machine going a few minutes later and I said, did you put that in the washing machine? He's like, yeah, am I doing like the guys in the book?
Oh, hey, I love it. That makes me so happy.
I've
That's
had
awesome.
no such luck.
I was like, there's a murder, so I don't know yet. Okay, I think we should start and whoever comes in late can just join us. And I know there's like two or three more that could be joining us. I know we've already sort of started talking, but does everybody want to say what they thought about the book overall?
I said it. It was. I wish I had the pen now, and I wish I had it then.
Does
I
it
wish I
get
had-
better? Do you need the pen less when your children get older?
No, absolutely
No.
not. No,
Okay.
no, no.
All right.
No.
You need
No.
I haven't gotten there yet, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's a different. You know what? You need it all the time. It's a different. It's as much work, but it's a different kind of work.
Mhm.
You know, you're so busy, and you're less physically busy, but you're more
Mental.
mentally and emotionally busy.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mhm.
my opinion, my experience. Get me a pen.
Well, I thought it was very much a twist. I like that twist towards like 3/4 into the book. I wasn't seeing it coming. And then all of a sudden, like, whoa, this is great. I thought it was interesting.
Oh, Chandler, Ileana was one of the recipients of Ileana and Jen, we're one of the recipients of your giveaways, so thank you.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much. Got it right here. Thank you. Yeah, very much an enjoyable read.
Thank you.
Chandler, for you, what did you hope to accomplish when you wrote this book, and what message did you hope to get across?
Oh, gosh, well, I wrote this book while I guess a couple of things were happening. One is I was on tour for my first adult book, which was called Whisper Network, and that was kind of a book about sexual harassment and the workplace, and what?
It was great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So I was talking to a lot of women at the time, doing a lot of professional organization talks and stuff. And a lot of women would ask me, how do we think we can make corporate culture better for women going forward? And a lot of things that they would say was they didn't feel like corporate culture would really get better for women in the workplace until there were more women at the top of the corporate ladder. But that in the same breath, it wasn't always that they felt that they weren't being offered more responsibility or more promotions at work. They were just as often opting out in some ways. They were putting themselves on the mommy track at work. They were choosing to reduce their hours. They were taking less demanding jobs, or they were leaving the workforce altogether because they felt so overwhelmed with their responsibilities at home, and it didn't feel like those could be handled by anyone else. So they were choosing to focus their efforts there. And that really resonated with me because there was a time, after the birth of my first child, my daughter, that I'd considered asking for a reduction in pay. I was working as a supporter full time at that point. And I just really wanted to do anything I could to sort of reduce the feeling that I was failing a little bit, both at work and at home. And so then I had another book due, and I was also at that point pregnant with my son, with my second child, and just kind of staring down the barrel of the recalibration of domestic responsibilities that comes with having a new baby. I'd experienced it with my daughter, and I knew that it took us a good long while, almost those entire 4 years, to sort of find a rhythm. And I'd gone on a girls' weekend with a few of my friends, a couple of my law school friends, and we talked about the book Fair Play by Eve Rodsky, which is a nonfiction book that kind of makes a game out of dividing domestic labor with your spouse. And I've had a lot of trouble implementing the book in my marriage, and a lot of my friends have too. But what really struck me was just how long we talked about it. And I really went home, and that week I was just I think there's something here. I want to talk. I felt like I wrote Whisper Network about women's particular experience in the workplace, and I really wanted to take those same types of women, not specific women, the types of women home, and just look at what the struggles were of being a modern woman at home right now, and how modern marriage looked. And it became very personal because obviously I have a lot of these issues in my own marriage, and I don't know, the theme was just very much baked into the premise from the get-go.
Yeah, I definitely felt the pain of her meeting with her boss where she thinks she's on track for promotion, and just how indiscriminately he puts her down and is like, you know what, you had a baby, so you shot your opportunity. I thought that is so, first of all, not true.
Mm-hmm.
But so not true that she could not be productive for him, because clearly she was supporting him at all hours of the day and night. Yeah. But it resonated. It's so typical that is the idea that you get a single father where the mother abandoned the children or passed away or whatnot, and they're in the workforce and nobody looks down on them, and they have opportunities because they're a single dad, and let's let them rise. But when it comes to women, there's this notion that we're not able to, multitask, and we get the work done, whether it be between 9 to 5 or 10 to 6 or whatever it may be. We almost work a little more because we feel we need to overcompensate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel I came from a law firm that was very old school. We had very few women in my law firm, and it was just so frustrating because I think so many of these older partners, you know, a lot of companies, including law firms, are still led by men that are, you know, largely in their 60s, even 70s, and they've come up in their careers being supported generally by a stay-at-home wife, and their culture is to stay at work. And I don't think they're working anymore, you know, because we have technology that connects us, but they think being in the office until, you know, 8 o'clock, doing the shit over like literally a glass of scotch is somehow work that's valuable. And like, I need to go home and relieve, you know, our babysitter or pick my child up from school. But they have that attitude that they're just working more and being more available, and really to our detriment, I think, as women who just can't swing that, and we don't even need to. It's because we're not doing less of a job.
No, I think I'm sorry, let me just say this.
No,
I think
go
we're being
ahead.
sold like a bag of hogwash, where they're telling us you have the opportunities, you can take the careers, you can do this, you can do that, you can do the other, but you know, nothing gives. We can do more, we pursue more. We're not giving up, you know, no man is having the baby. So all we're doing is putting more pressure on ourselves, and it's hard because we want to be good at everything that we do, and it's really tough. And I think women at the top, more women at the top could be a different scenario, but I don't think more women at the top are compassionate and willing to always lend a hand to another woman. They're very competitive, and women that don't have kids don't understand the mothers. And so that is even almost more heartbreaking because they're like us, but they're not helping us. And that hurts.
You led me to, I had the question about the workplace with Nora's boss later on, but your discussion brought up a thing. Do you think it's only men putting those pressures on women, or women putting it on women too? Because I've seen in the workplace when a guy in the office takes off to pick up his kid from school who's sick, or during the pandemic when we were all working from home, has to take time off to make his kindergartner lunch. There were executive women that were like, doesn't he have a wife that can do that? Why isn't his wife picking up there? And I'm like, maybe his wife is in a meeting today. Maybe she has something more important going on. Like, yeah. I think we blame the men, but I think women sometimes do it to each other too.
Yeah, I think that's true. In the book, Barbara is a female partner that Nora also kind of works for, and you know, there's a line about how she had given like toast, I think, at a firm party about how she had like a C-section over the weekend and came back. And like, that's a real thing that happened at our firm party. You know, this partner stood up and talked about how she closed a deal, like she had a C-section and came back that Monday. And it sounds so like strong, but it's really damaging to the other, you know, 50 or so women that are in the room that are hearing this story that somebody on the executive committee only took off 3 days for the birth of their child following a C-section. So I think that's really damaging. I think the other thing women do to themselves is like, I know that I personally compare myself, and a lot of people compare themselves to my mom and how my mom mothered, and she was a stay-at-home mom. And so I feel like I'm holding myself to that standard. My husband had a stay-at-home mom. Most families, and the majority of families, are dual income families. That's not really what American families tend to look like, but we equate good mothering and the performance of good motherhood as being fully available to our kids. And we equate being a good employee as being fully available to our job. And that's possible now with sort of like the logjam of technology allowing both partners in a marriage to be fully available through technology. And it just, like, something has to give. We're putting all this pressure on ourselves, but it doesn't seem, I mean, so far, it doesn't seem like there is any give in those two ideals that I think are so deeply ingrained in a lot of us.
It's funny you say that, because I have a stepdaughter who's 18, and I tell her all the time, I hope by the time you get married and you have a partner and a spouse, they're going to grow up seeing their mothers, their older sisters working and contributing to not only, you know, the home, but outside the home. And I hope by the time you know, get there, that it's not so much like your role is defined by all these things you're expected to do in the home, plus also working. I hope it's more of a balance. I tell her that all the time because I see, you know, she's being raised, her mother, myself, you know, we're working women, you know, her dad works, everybody works and everybody contributes, but I'm still doing the majority of the share at the house. And she always tells me, I don't know why you do so much and dad should help more. And I said, well, you know, these are the conversations that start having those conversations now and saying like, no, this is, you know, my expectation. And I want, when I have this life and have a spouse, that it's not going to be, you know, just based off my gender role, what I'm expected to do in the home.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting.
I'm going to ask the question now that I had down here about work. Let me see. Okay. A few times in the novel, Nora's boss references her duties as a mom as interfering with her workload. We kind of mentioned it, but do you think this happens to fathers too? And how would you respond to those comments?
I don't think it happens to fathers at all. I mean, you know, you wrote something in the book that really, it's something really trivial when you read it, but it really resonated with me. When, you know, she's home and she's struggling with her daughter and, you know, getting dinner on the table and the whole thing, and he's nowhere to be found. He's in the gym, in the garage, working out. And, oh, but why didn't you call me? You know, and that to me was just like, yeah, been there all the time, you know. At least in my experience, I don't think that at all. I mean, my husband works, and if he has a conference call, I better take care of whatever is going on because he cannot be bothered with that conference call. If there's one kid screaming in the house and he's on a Zoom call, it's, you know, shut him up. It's my risk. I better do it. And I don't think men feel it at all because we as women haven't really allowed them to feel that. That's what I think. You know, it's just, you work all day, you take care of your kids, you have your kids, you raise your kids, you go to and from school, and they wash one dish, and it's like they're doing you this huge favor. Oh, by the way, I washed the dishes. Oh, great. Congratulations. You know, and we're just expected to do it. And I think then you start selling yourself short because when you try to do both, sometimes people think that they're not doing enough in one role or the other role. And when you do only one, then you think you're neglecting the other role. And when you're doing, you know, so it's, I don't think men feel that at all because they've never had to feel that, you know, because at the end of the day, the women are the ones always picking up the slack. Just I mean, that's, from my perspective, that's what I think. I mean, I'm sure there's men out there that help more and are, you know, great or whatever. But then I think there's that little voice, I think, in all of us that says, yeah, you know what? Let me do it because I'm going to do it better. I'll handle it. Forget it because I'm going to mess it up even more. I mean, psychologically, that's what you tend to think, at least in my experience. I don't know. All those little things resonated with me so much because it's just like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's all women who feel like that or get more of the housework, or just women who are also moms?
No, I think everybody. You know, because even people who aren't parents and that don't have children, you know, sometimes it's, you know, if you have a husband who likes to cook, wonderful, they cook for you. But think about it. You work all day, you come home, and your husband might come in and say, so what's for dinner? And then you're just like, okay, let me make some. You know what I mean? It's like automatic. This automatic, we fall into these roles automatically, and then it's hard for us to break free of them. You know, in my case, it's terrible because, I mean, I chose not to work. And I've been home for a really long time. And now in retrospect, I look at it and say to myself, well, you know, did I do the right thing? You know, what I do is valid enough. Should I have done both? But see, I only question that when it comes to being a stay-at-home mom. I don't think I would have questioned whether I would have stayed home if I would have been working. I would have been thrust into those two roles and I would have done it just fine. But there's always those questions going on, and then you think of the justification as, oh, well, I'm not being shamed at work for not doing enough, like the main character in this book was, or yeah, I can stay late, it's not a big deal. But then I've seen this happen also, and with people who aren't married and don't have children, and sometimes bosses, especially women bosses, which Ileana brought up, will be like, well, you know what, you can stay late because you don't work, you don't have a husband. I mean, you don't have kids, you don't have a husband, you can do more. I have to go home because I have 5 kids waiting for me at home. So I have to leave and I have a vacation with them. But you basically don't have a life. So here you go. Here's your workload. Yeah. So how do you win? How do you win? And it's not the men who say that. It's usually women bosses for whatever reason. They're harder. Women are harder on women for whatever reason. Men, you just fake some cramps and they'll be like, yeah, okay, go home. They don't want to deal with that. But women are harder on women. And I just don't like that double standard of, if you're a stay-at-home mom, it's like you don't do enough. If you work and you're a mom, then you have to balance and you have to prioritize because your work is important and your work is jeopardized because you want to be a responsible parent. And if you don't have children, you have all the time in the world and no life, so therefore you can work till 11 o'clock at night every night. So how do you win?
Christy, what were you going to say?
No, I think that a lot also has to do with our jobs. If we have a husband that is done at work at 3, maybe, he'll come in, he can help out. But if we have a husband that's working till 8 o'clock at night, then the responsibility does fall more on the woman, or vice versa. If the woman is the one at a job, if she's a lawyer and the husband's a teacher, like, then I think the husband will be doing more chores and getting more stuff done if his wife is, at work. So I think, our jobs in a marriage has a lot to do also with how much you distribute all the errands and the chores and everything that needs to get done. And definitely if you're a stay-at-home mom, your husband's working till 9 o'clock at night or traveling and doing all that, then definitely that's, a lot's going to fall on you just because, you have more time. It doesn't excuse, they could always just come in and ask, how can I help, and do something. But I definitely think, that our jobs and a marriage have a lot to do with it too, how much we can distribute.
I agree. I think that's accurate.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it is crazy, like the amount of women I talk to, even women that are like the primary breadwinners or have like the more traditionally high-powered jobs, still seem to carry the bulk of the emotional and mental load, which is really surprising and disappointing, just kind of how sticky these gender roles have remained at home. In terms of whether I think it affects just mothers, like I do think we have seen women be the ones that carry unpaid domestic labor just across the board. Like generally you hear aging parents, they'll be like, oh, I'm so glad you have a daughter, because typically women are the ones that care for their aging parents. We saw during COVID, women were exponentially spending a ton of time trying to get various family members COVID vaccines and organizing that for people. I think that women are generally the keepers of kinship relationships. So whether it's your in-laws or your own parents or your friends, like women are the ones that are typically making plans and nailing down plans, figuring out what you're going to do when you're together, and exchanging gifts and remembering whose gifts you need to get. All of that work is not based around motherhood, but are things that women are typically the ones who carry. And I don't think that there is a strong fatherhood bias. And I think it's fascinating that motherhood bias impacts not just mothers at work. And we see this in ways that, like, women of a certain age at work, whether or not they intend to have kids. A lot of people in the office will often get women and be like, well, she's in her 30s, like she's going to have a kid soon. You know, when do we think she's going to get pregnant? When do we think that that's going to happen? And are planning around that. And it can impact a woman's opportunities for promotion because they think that there's going to be this lag time in her career and that maybe she won't come back after kids. My husband and I, you know, when I was a lawyer, we had the exact same job at the exact same firm. And when he, you know, when I was pregnant, it was like this whole big issue always about how I was gonna like roll out this information and tell people and the timing and after I'd gotten my bonuses and stuff. And for Rob, it was always just like he would mention it in passing, you know, and nobody would think twice about it because people expect my being pregnant to inconvenience them, but they don't expect his having a baby to inconvenience them in the same way. And that's, I don't think, something they consciously go through the thought experiment of why that is, but that's just how they feel about it. And I get how they got to that conclusion. And a lot of that I think has to do with paternity leave and the lack of paternity leave in this country, or when people do have it, it's too stigmatized to take it. But it's very frustrating because other than the actual giving birth part, we're doing the exact same thing, right? But they just don't expect it to be an issue when he has a baby.
And I think we've come a long way from like the 80s because I see men now doing a lot more than like my father did. My father would have never taken us to a doctor's appointment or been the one to pick us up from school if we were sick. Not that he wasn't present, because I remember being little and only taking a certain medication if my dad came to. He would leave work in the afternoon, come give it to me if I was sick and go back to work. But they weren't they weren't as involved then as they seem to be now.
And I agree. I mean, men have gotten so much better at, hands-on parenting is much more in vogue than it was for both sexes. Men are definitely doing, bedtime, they're doing baths, they're taking to doctor's appointments. But the thing that statistically we're not seeing them do a lot more of is the sort of monitoring function of being a parent in particular, but other things as well. Like they're not thinking about as much like what's coming up, when are camp registrations due, when is school registration due, what childcare do we need to line up for 2 months from now, and then checking back to make sure that got done. Like those are still largely on the shoulders of women, those executive functions. And even to the extent it is getting better, but why not faster? Because women are such a large part of the workforce at this point. You know, we largely make up 50% of the workforce and have for a while. So why is it not faster at home? It's so hard for me to grapple with. Yes, it's better, but women still do more than double the amount of unpaid labor as men at home, which is just a crazy statistic.
I think maybe there's something to be said. I'm sorry, was somebody else going to say something?
No, I was going to ask another question, but go ahead.
I think there's something to be said truly about the genetic makeup that men truly compartmentalize. And I think for a man, a child very close to school, good enough. A mother might think, is it clean? Does it match? Did the kid take a shower last night? Did they brush their teeth? So I think for them, efficiency means get them clothed, put them in the car, seatbelt, drop them off at school. They did it. Where we need more reassurance that we've gone through all the steps. I think if we were, because sometimes I think, what would a man do? Like in my position, what would a man do? How would he speak? I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves as well, not to diminish the fact that we need to definitely have our kids vaccinated on time and schedules for daycare, paperwork, and all that good stuff that we always do. But I wonder if we didn't step in to do it, wouldn't they rise to the occasion? I feel maybe sometimes we don't give them the opportunity to, because they know that they can always fall back on us. So why do they have to try and maybe fail when we're reassuring them from day one, I've got this. I don't even worry about it. Like Lydia said, we're going to do it perfectly. So maybe we're not giving them a chance to step up. I don't know. Maybe it's a consideration.
That's like the theory of Nora's coworker, being the passenger in the relationship.
It's funny what Ileana just said, because I'll give you an example. I'm packing up my son for college, right? And and I'm like, okay, we need to pack all these things up. I need to get all this organized. We need 3 days. We need to move him in. I need to be there an extra day just in case he needs something. I'm just not gonna. My husband's like, just let him put some clothes in a duffel bag and a whatever. And all he needs is a duffel. I'm like, he's not going on vacation. He's moving. And it's like, but why? I don't understand. So here comes this huge Land's End duffel that I fit in. My husband has ordered this, and he's like, oh yeah, put everything in there. And I'm just like, no. And it's like Ileana says, oh yeah, did they wear clothes? Does it match? It doesn't matter. You're dressed, you had something to eat, and you got to school. Not this intricate planning of, okay, we're going to do this. You need towels, you need detergent, you need. It's just like, okay, you know what? Don't worry about it. My reaction was, don't worry about it. I'll handle it. Whose fault is that? It's my fault, right? Because I'm not putting the responsibility on him. But then I'm thinking, if I do, this kid's going to be like,
you can have no food in his dorm room.
Y'all are so much nicer than me. I will say that. I do not think it's your fault. I think there is like weaponized incompetence that happens.
I'm here. Oh, and then Tommy struggles with it, because I say to myself, well, I'm really doing something I shouldn't be doing this, because I have 3 sons. So I'm setting this precedent, these poor daughters-in-laws that I will have at some point in time, because here I am setting everything up in motion. And, but my husband's like, whatever. Yeah. I go, it's funny. My mother-in-law says, get him 35 pair of underwear. So he can have one for every single day, and he doesn't need to do laundry. And I'm going to myself, what? But that goes to show the mentality, this, the can't do anything, just everything has to be perfectly set out for them. And then my husband's like, throw something in a duffel and go. And here I am trying to find a balance between those 2 extremes, but yeah, you pick up the slack and you say they're not able to do it, and you're going to do it. So it's interesting that you brought that up, because it just brought up the duffel bag scenario, because it's happening in real time right now for me. So it's nuts.
I have a comment. I don't know if it's really a question, but I actually loved the description. I think it was kind of early in the book, but when Nora's like, you're going through her head, like how she just try, like, as opposed to exactly what we're talking about, as opposed to like, oh, I gotta put the lunch in the lunchbox. No, it's like the lunch in the lunchbox. And oh, did I call the doctor? And oh, did I like the way her mind keeps going? I'm like, oh my God, someone else is like me. I'm like that all the time. And I'm like, I can't stop. Like, that's why you can't sleep, and you can't. And I wonder if that's just like a female thing, or it's a personality thing. Like maybe that's what changes, and why guys are much more about like are they dressed in the car out, as opposed to thinking about the 15 million other things that you have like looming. I just thought that was so well put. I'd never really seen that put into word like in a book, right? Because most of the times it's a little fairy tale-ish, but this was just, it felt so real. I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what I think all the time. My brain. So I just appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you. I'm glad. It's kind of sad also. It's a little bit of both, right? Yeah, I don't think it's just us trying hard on ourselves. I think that there is a double standard in terms of what constitutes a good parent. So, yes, if a teacher or other parents knew that a mother was out of town and the dad like sent a child to school with like a Lunchable and their hair unbrushed and like in clothes that don't match, it'd be like, oh, that's cute. If I did the same thing and I sent my kid to school with their hair unbrushed, it's not just that I would be disappointed in myself, it's people actually view that as being a negligent mother. Like there is a curve that men are being graded on, and there is like something that we consider like what is the performance of good motherhood. And it's largely based on a culture of worry. It's about us like making sure that we're anticipating every possible thing that can happen, every eventuality. And we didn't invent that ourselves. Like, we are a product of that, I think. And that's why I feel that way. And the same expectation has been placed on men, and their identity as a good person and a conscientious person is not based on upholding a certain standard of care for the women that way. Now, they've got other messed up messaging that I think damages men. I think they have like a culture of being big earners, or, you know, other different things that they place, that society places their value and worth on, but that is ours. And I don't think it's something we invented on our own. And I think that there is some true like weaponized incompetence on not trying to learn the appropriate standards. There is a middle ground, but I don't know. I read this great article, I think in Modern Love, about like a marriage mystery, and it was a therapist taking a couple through where the woman was like, in order to feel clean, I feel like our bathroom needs to be cleaned every 2 weeks. And the husband was like, well, I don't care about that. I don't need it cleaned every 2 weeks. I need it cleaned every month. He's like, so if she wants it cleaned every 2 weeks, well, then she should clean it every 2 weeks, and that's fine, but it just doesn't bother me. Well, if that's what happens, then he never has to clean the bathroom, right? For it to be fair, they should each clean the bathroom every 2 weeks. But instead he's like, oh, I'm not bothered by it, so I'll just do it none at all because she's picking it up every 2 weeks. And I feel like that sort of thing happens a lot.
I had a question about switching over from the men to the women, like the female relationships in the book, right? Like at some point her best friend doesn't understand and like thinks like she's like so obsessed with this and like can't comprehend it. And then she's also trying to fit in with the ladies in Dynasty as well, and kind of doesn't feel like she fits in there. And then at work with you know, her female boss, same thing. So we'd just love to know kind of your thought process behind those like very complicated relationships with the women, and also a little bit of how maybe the judgment from those women kind of affects, you know, what we do. You were saying like if you drop your son off at school without his hair being brushed, who's judging? It's not the dads that are judging, probably it's the other moms, right? So we'd just love to hear about your thought process when it came to the female characters.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, her best friend is Andy, and it's her friend from high school. And, you know, I have a lot of really, really close female friends. I have a great group of girlfriends. But I do think I do think we sort of need friends at every life stage, right? And she and Andy are friends from high school, but she has, because of, you know, the way her life is shaping up, I think it's very hard to make friends outside of school, grown-up friends. It can just be hard to make new friendships. And I think Nora's really feeling that. And she's feeling like, gosh, I really wish I had some friends in this life stage who understood what I'm going through right now. And Andy isn't available all the time. She's out of the country and isn't experiencing what she's experiencing. I mean, personally, I think that there's nothing more cathartic than like having a long walk or lunch with your girlfriends and talking to them about, you know, like all the things that are happening in your house, the life stage you're going in through right now, and then them saying like, oh, I'm going through the exact same thing. And she doesn't have that person in her life right now. That's what she wants. That's what she's hoping to find, I think, with the women of Dynasty Ranch. And you know, I think that she does like the women of Dynasty Ranch a lot. And I think that they like her a lot. And they have some different ethical feelings in the end about how they should reach the same goal. But, you know, I think it's interesting that the women in Dynasty Ranch have had more of an opportunity to foster these close relationships because they're not so loaded down at home, and they're getting their opportunities to do yoga together, or, you know, whatever they want, be healthy and have talks.
I have a question for everyone who read the book, because I got this comment from more than one person since we announced that this was our book club book. Did you read it feeling like it was man bashing at any point? I personally did not, because I saw it as only Nora's point of view of being frustrated with her husband, since all of the other ones seemed kind of perfect and reassuring to their wives. But more than one person commented to me that it seemed like it was a man bashing at the beginning, or well, as they read. So did anybody else feel that? And for Chandler, did you feel that when you were writing it?
No, I'll say I was actually reading Fair Play right before we started reading Husbands. So it was actually for me, I was like, this is like a continuation of reading Fair Play in a way, but obviously more lighthearted, and it was fiction. But no, I thought it was kind of a very funny, and there was a lot of social commentary in a lighthearted, fictional way. Like, I'm a mom, I have a partner, I have a child, and oftentimes I find myself thinking the same thing that the character's thinking, like, hey, like, why, if I do this, why can't you do it? Like, and obviously I think that what you were saying before, and I apologize, I was a little bit late, but I was having trouble getting in, but I caught part of what you were saying there about, it's a burden that women have to bear, right? That it's like, people assume that it is, including women, that it's the women that have to kind of be thinking about all these different things, and men are not as burdened or bothered by certain things. So therefore, they don't always understand, like, what is the big deal of the shoes in the middle of the living room, or if the kid's hair, the kid eats Pop-Tarts every day for breakfast. Like, it's things that bother us, right? And like, we get like crazy about it. So to me, it resonated probably too much. So I didn't think it was man bashing at all. But anyway.
Anyone else?
I didn't think it was man bashing at all. I got a different perception though from the women. I don't know. It was always like they'd give a little, but then they take a little back, and then she's struggling to fit in. So she's changing, evolving a little in order to fit into this, sort of little society they have going on, which, so I almost saw some of them as almost bullying her, really, in a way, not blatant, overt bullying, but just subtle, here you go, we're giving you this, but we'll take it back if you don't do this, or what she perceived that she needed to do in order to fit in, and I think it was, they had their clique, which was interesting because you captured the essence of that entire development kind of, thing to a T. I lived in a area that was just like that. Like, I was reading through that going, oh my gosh, could this be based on my old neighborhood? My old neighborhood was called Berry Creek. So they all have these stupid names, and and it was the same thing. The over-the-top realtor telling you she lives 3 blocks down and how she loves it. And how your next door neighbor is going to be your new best friend because she's awesome and she has kids the same age as your kids. And I was reading that and saying, oh my goodness, but then you do feel that pressure because you feel like you need to do something, and you don't come from that, and your house is total chaos, and you're coming from a different environment, and here you are going into this like perfect Stepford husbands kind of situation, and you're trying to evolve into that as well. So I think that I don't know, I perceived like Nora had some pressure coming from that end as well. Be a good mom, get your promotion, be nice to your husband, be appreciative of your husband because he is a nice guy, and you sort of are thinking he's not because you're comparing him to these other people. And so I don't know, I just saw like a little almost bullying kind of situation going on. Well, we find out obviously there was a big bully, but somebody was pulling the strings. But yeah, I don't know if anybody else, felt that, but I perceived that, and I don't even know if that's something that you wanted to get across in the writing, but I picked up on those nuances somehow.
Yeah. I think the neighborhood is very aspirational. For me, it's kind of in the way that like I look at Instagram accounts and I see their really organized pantry and I'm like, I want that, and like I should have that. What do I do to become more like that? Because my house doesn't look like that, and my children's closets don't look like that, and the playroom doesn't look like those things. So yeah, but all those things I feel like are so just tantalizing and intoxicating, and always just feel so within my reach if I could just like focus for a weekend. So it feels kind of like that to me. In terms of it being man bashing, I mean, I know people feel that way. Personally, I mean, to me, people's opinions of Hayden are very different. Like, to me, I think Hayden's a really nice guy. Like, I think she married the right person. I think she married her person. And all of the women that I know in my life, in my real life, are smart, honest, outspoken women who are not doormats in their relationship and who have married, you know, these dad 2.0 types, men that are feminists, men that want to do good. Like, I'm not very interested in talking about guys that are not well-intentioned. I think all these men are trying to be better than their dads, are trying to be more involved. I'm just really interested in why there is a gap between these intentions and having, you know, domestic and familial labor divided 50-50. So I'm just really curious about looking at where's that gap coming from when the men are trying and the women are trying, what's going on here. So I certainly don't hate any of men. I love my own husband while still also, and I think also some of it is, and you were saying you were reading Eve Brodsky's Fair Play, which I read too, and I love. And while I was writing this, I read all these books about division of domestic labor, and they're all like, well, if you just play this card game, or if you just do this, you know, these 5 steps, you know, you'll never argue about domestic labor again. And they all boil down to communicate with your partner. I'm like, okay, well, that's what's so hard. Communicating is the thing that is hard. That's saying, like, to be good at math, you just have to be good at math. Like, it's so difficult. And so I mean, I really relate to it on both sides, including the men's side, because certainly in my family, we're very conscious of this issue, but we still fail to communicate about it like I would like to all the time. We do all the things that Laura and Hayden do. We scoreboard and list all the things we each do. We take it super personally when we add things to each other's to-do list when we both feel overloaded. So I think my point is that things, you know, that happen behind closed doors feel really personal, and make us feel like bad people. But these issues, because I don't know anybody that's free of them, must be largely systemic, and maybe not something to feel quite so ashamed about when we're failing, when it seems like everyone else is figuring it out somehow.
And if
The
you
word
are
failure.
there,
Oh, sorry.
I
Go
think
ahead.
we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and it's like Tina says, we can relate a lot with everything that she was going through. And it's like, oh man, we're not the only ones that feel this way. Other people feel that way. And I feel we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to have the child that's clean and put together, and to make sure we have everything we need in the 10 bags we walk out the door with, while we get criticized that, you know, why did we take too long, or why do we have 10 bags? Because just in case we don't have something that we think we need, but what if, you know, we just don't have it? But we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and I don't think men do that. They don't put that much pressure on themselves over all the things that are happening in the house. You know, they're I feel like sometimes they're more easygoing. And it's okay if we don't, you know, do everything that we want to do, or have everything that we want to have when we step out for 2 hours, you know.
What do you all think attracted Nora to Dynasty Ranch? I was going to ask Chandler, where did that concept come from? But you kind of hit like where you came with the concept of Dynasty Ranch. So for everyone else, and if you were handed keys to live there, would you take them? Lydia.
To me, it seems like it's a lot of work. You know, home is home. Home should be where you relax, you're free, you're who you are. And it's nice not to have to try and fit a mold, to be accepted, to have to be on guard, to have to look right in case someone knocks at your door. I don't know. It's just not my lifestyle. And just to go back, what I was going to say is I think failure is relative. I think we can definitely put ourselves down a tunnel of comparison where everything we check against somebody else, we fail at. But we only can do the best we can do. And, some things are going to get undone. And sometimes we fail to communicate that we want the help. Other times we succeed at it. I think we take it one day at a time. If we look at it as a whole, the lifetime of our children, and who more from, that's very frustrating and crazy. But on a day-to-day basis, I think one parent's going to do more than the other. If we look at it realistically and objectively, someone might be more comforting than the other. We might do more laundry, but the other person is more into medical appointments. So I don't think that it's fair to put ourselves in that continuum of comparison. If overall the kid at 18 is living and hasn't lost a limb, I think we've succeeded. I think it's not as difficult as we try to make it seem.
I have a question for Chandler. Hayden at the end, when they go back 2 years later and they're living in another neighborhood, is acting normal until the very end when she picks up the gold pen. Does he get like unprogrammed and he's back to his regular self, or is he still under the hypnosis? Like she can reactivate it whenever she wants?
Yeah. So, I mean, in the book, it talks about how they're making efforts. Thea is to try to make these things permanent, make the long form hypnosis permanent through surgical intervention, but they hadn't gotten there yet when she left the neighborhood. But the idea is that there is still a trigger that can be reused. So she goes and she tries to live her life normally, with Hayden not being sort of a Stepford husband, but sort of in the final moments, she decides to try to sort of activate his hypnosis because she's fed up. And it was important to me not to leave the book with people feeling like I thought men were the victims in the story because she left the neighborhood to like save Hayden and didn't agree with the women's actions. But yeah, I just didn't want that to be the end message, that people are like, oh, and then men are the victims. No, that's not that's not what we're saying here.
And I know it's almost 8 o'clock, so before we wrap up, did anybody see the ending coming? Like, who did you picture to be Richard's murderer, who was the original victim? And did you see the plot twist coming at all? Because I did not. I thought the teenagers were involved somehow the whole time.
I did too. And I also thought his widower at one point, I thought she might have been involved. I never saw it coming.
I didn't think the teenagers did it, but I thought they had seen something that would have like wrapped it all together.
And then that's another reason why I wouldn't live in that neighborhood. It's scary.
Good reason. That's a big bad reason.
You live in a neighborhood like that kind of neighborhood where it's that.
Yeah, I mean, we belong to a country club here that is in a neighborhood that's very, very similar to that. I mean, there's a couple neighborhoods that are nearby that I feel like are quite close. And some of my neighbors have read the book and feel like it resembles my current neighborhood, which wasn't really my intention, but kind of just any like master plan subdivision, I feel like has that same vibe.
When they go to like the pool and stuff, I was just like, flashback, like, no, I don't. And I felt like Liana did. I got it the first Halloween in a development like that. I was like, I don't know what's happening here. It was just people with like, it was just like you were at a festival and it was people's homes. And I just felt so inadequate at that point because I'm just like, okay, well, I just thought we were trick-or-treating, but it was just like incredible. And I did feel those pressures, and those, I guess I must have met some similar individuals. I'm sure there's so many, I mean, I'm sure you have as well when, you get ideas for these characters, but it was just, if I had to do it again, I don't think I'd live there. I don't live there anymore. I'm back in Miami. So, and it's, but it was very interesting. So
the Mother's Day brunch sounded phenomenal though. Wow. Yeah. I wanted to be part of that. I definitely wanted to be invited to that.
There's some benefits. I know.
That's
I feel
true.
like Mother's Day is a sore spot for a lot of my friends. I feel like there's often a lot of hurt feelings following Mother's Day. And I was like, oh, I have to use that.
That was fun.
So did anybody see the women as being the culprits of this whole scheming?
As what?
No.
I couldn't understand what you
Like,
said.
did you see the ending coming? Like, as the women being the ones behind Richard's death and Penny's death?
I thought it was the wife, his
Wife.
Yeah, the widow. That's what I thought the whole time. So, but no, I didn't think it was just going to be so intricate. I didn't realize, I didn't think that at all. I did not see it coming.
I had a feeling. What really threw me off was the boyfriend of the girl. I forgot his name, but the boyfriend, I thought that she was protecting her boyfriend and she wasn't gonna like have that happen to him. And then towards the end, he was hypnotized. And then the twist which made me feel horrible was when Nora's husband is the one getting framed. And then I'm like, this poor guy, it was all fun and games, and now it's not fun anymore. I'm like, oh my God, no, this is not good. Like now they're framing him and he has no idea what's happening. So that I was like, what a twist. That freaked me out.
Yeah, I agree with Christy. I knew Cornelia was behind the whole thing for sure, but I never saw that they were gonna make Hayden do all of those things. That killed me.
Anyone else? And any thoughts on how Nora treated Andy? I felt so bad for her. Like, I felt like, I know we already talked about female friendships a little bit, but I felt like she was so consumed in these new women in her lives that she just threw her old friendship to the side. Any comments?
I feel like we all have that friend that will tell us like when we're acting weird, and whether or not we want to listen to them is kind of depends on the time. But yeah, I love that type of friend. It's just like, you are being bananas right now. You need to chill out. And she was really standing up for Hayden, which I think is the mark of a good friend, when, she wasn't trying to make drama like between her friend and her husband. She was like, no, Hayden's a good guy. Like, if he doesn't like the neighborhood, there's probably a reason for it. But they get over it, right, in the end.
I think we've had those relationships where we'll get into an argument or something similar like that with a really close friend. We'll stop talking, but then eventually, I love how in the book they got back together and they worked it out, because that's what happens with true friendships. At the end of the day, you find your way back.
Mm-hmm. And they didn't even have to like discuss it and hash it out. It just was natural. I liked that part. So Chandler, I know it's 8 o'clock. We don't want to take up too much more of your time. Does anybody have anything else they want to ask or say before we end tonight's session?
I loved it. Thank you so much. It was a great book.
It was.
Yes,
Thank you for not making us feel like we're alone in this. Like it was like almost like talking to a friend and saying like, okay, wait, I recognize this. So thank you for that.
That's what I thought was so cool about it. That it was so relatable. Like, I mean, maybe, and thankfully it sounds like it's not just me, because I kept thinking, I'm like, is she talking to me? Talking about me? It's very relatable. So thank you for that.
Thank you guys.
Okay. I'm not a mom, Tina, but apparently it's all the moms feel like that. So you're not alone.
For sure. I mean, we should get together in 30 years and talk about how silly it all was back when we worried about it,
It's funny because I'll have my niece and nephew sometimes for like 3 or 4 days in a row if it's like summer vacation or something. And I'm texting my friends with kids like, I don't think I can be a mom. I'm exhausted. It's only day 1.5 and I just want to take a nap. So I don't know how you all do it, but you all do a fantastic job.
Man, I wish I had you for an aunt. That sounds awesome. Like,
they fill my kid void.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Michelle,
and then I'm like, okay.
Anytime, if you want, you can take mine anytime.
Not the college bound one. That sounds like too much work.
No, nobody wants that one. It's that one right now.
Can we take a photo with our book? And then don't sign off because I'll announce the next book for anybody who's interested.
I'm so curious.
Oh, you can stay on. Okay. I love it. I see phones, iPads, Kindles.
Yeah,
I just have me.
We just need you.
Okay.
Seriously, thank you so much for joining us and like accepting
thank
so
you
quick.
for having me. It was so fun.
It was great to hear the inspiration for the book. We loved it.
Now you know that your work hits home for many people. No pressure for your next one.
Whatever gets done.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. And I'm gonna do another one just in case. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Is what else? I know we mentioned a little bit in the beginning, but not everyone was on. What is next for you, and when can we expect your next book? And if anyone hasn't read The Whisper Network, I was listening to it while also reading this one, and it's great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just turned in the script for The Husbands, so for the movie adaptation of it, which will star Kristen Wiig as Nora, which is exciting. And yeah, I'm working on a book called Cutting Teeth, and it is a very me book. Like, if you like The Husbands and you like Whisper Network, you'll probably like it. So
Awesome.
it's kind of weird, but about early motherhood.
It's about what? Motherhood?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Wow. We're cutting teeth because the kids are not listening. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's about a group of preschoolers that develop a taste for their parents' blood.
Oh,
and,
boy.
And their preschool teacher is murdered, and the only witnesses and suspects are the 10 4-year-olds.
Whoa, that's amazing.
Kind of like feeling nibbled on as a parent, and all the crazy expectations put on us as mothers, our bodies and our minds. So
You say this as my 4-year-old is right here pinching me right now.
there you go. Yes.
I'm over here.
Hi.
Hi.
I was just talking to you all day. I was finding you all day and all day and all day.
Oh my goodness.
When does the TV adaptation? Is it when? Do you know when it's expected to come out?
I don't know, because they literally just turned in the first draft of the
Awesome.
script, and it's like a super long process, but we've got a lot of the pieces in place. So
That's great. That'll be fun.
yeah, it's been a good experience.
Okay. Our next book, I'm announcing the next 2 for the first time together, only because summer is coming, and I know some of you busy moms are reading more on the beach or by the pool, hopefully, if you get breaks. So I know September and August are usually insane for all of you, so I'm just going to announce 2 at once. So the first one, you guys have been asking for rom-coms, is Book Lovers, which was named apparently #1 for Books and Books from their staff this month. And we'll be discussing that one in July. And then in September, we'll be discussing Our Last Days in Barcelona by Chanel Creighton. She's joined us for 2 books in the past. She's not joining us this time because she's on deadline for another book. So
Good choices. All right.
have you read Book Lovers?
I have not. Is Emily coming?
No, they have not answered back. Her publicist says that she was kind of busy. So
Yeah.
I hope we can somehow still nag her enough that she'll join, but and Chanel's great. She's joined us twice before, but she said she was on a deadline this time. And I read Our Last Days in Barcelona already, and it is awesome. If you've read her previous books, we get like little snippets of the Perez sisters and where they're at now. So it was a fun read. And I have a question for all of you that was suggested by Michelle, who's on here. She suggested having an in-person meeting, but since some people don't live in Miami, I said no to that. But would anybody be open to like a summer social at like Books and Books or something? Yes, yes.
I'm in.
Okay. I'll plan it then.
And Michelle, I'm there in June, all the month of June. So if you
Oh,
do
you're
it
here
in June,
June?
I can go. Yeah.
Okay, well, yes, I was thinking June or mid-July. Good. Okay, that sounds good. We'll plan it then. So Chandler, thank you again for joining us tonight.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
You
Bye.
too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Mommy, I'm gonna
Thank you.